This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Hey there, it's Brian Sebastian, movie reviews and more. And if it's Tuesday, first of all, you never know if you're going to have good internet. You never know what's going to be happening, especially during a retrograde. For those of us that believe in communication and computer problems, it does happen and it does exist. So we are live. This is show number 162, live shows in a row, going strong still. Live on Talk4 Media, K4HD Radio, Talk4 TVs, streaming at over 100 outlets around the world right now. And iTunes 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. So this show is interesting and also special, just like every show is special. It's an honor to have everybody come on when everybody can, because I take it very seriously. And so I know our co-hosts do too, because they're always asking Carol and Rachel, who's on Tuesday? So I always make sure I send them stuff so that they have an idea. And then so this young lady, Joanne, she reached out to me probably 3-4 months ago. But I knew she was coming on, but totally forgot that she was coming on. So we added her at last minute. And then I said, well, that's not you. That's my fault because I forgot how to reach her. And then so this other guy, Evan, I found his film, called Folson's Run about Wolfdogs. And I said, oh, I got to have him in. How do I squeeze him in? And then I said, oh, I can make this happen. And then with Matt, well, I knew what Matt was coming on because he's been scheduled for about 3.5-4 months. I said, this will work some kind of crazy way like we always do. So it's about dogs. It's about children. It's about some of it may be about cooking. Some of it may be about neuro coaching, this interior designing and art, a little bit about fitness, but it all works. And that's the more movie reviews and more. So, Evan, I want to start with you. He's a director. He's the owner at that Blind View Productions. He creates and captivates great content for TV, film, and other brands. But I really liked Folson's Run. And we're going to show a trailer of this in a little bit. I can't wait to talk to him because I found him at Dances with Wolves, Los Angeles. And when you see Wolfdogs in person, I thought I wanted one until I saw how big they were. And I said, I don't think I could have it that way. So that'll be interesting to see. And then, he's the CEO. Matt, I know you're going to be a little bit glitchy. I know it, so I'm prepared for it. But we're going to work with what we have with you. And so when you're that CEO and that founder of ChefPaw, and that too. So umbrella company, Innovet Pet Products. I love that. He is that, let's see, mechanical engineer. He's that inventor. So I can only imagine how his brain works. But when you can create great products for dogs, that's important. Really, really important. And I think there's some CBD probably in there, but he's got a bunch of patents too. So Matthrew Terril. So that's a great thing. Joanne. So Joanne, anytime we have kids, and the future of kids, I'm all about that. I'm all about learning. Without the future, they said, without the past, there is no future. And it goes the other way around now. Everything's like a circle, unfortunately. So that speech pathologist, that award-winning author, I really want to see her books go someplace. Talk, play, and read. That book series. I really think something could happen with that. But when you want to help those kids, from birth, on their language and literary skills, I think that's really, really important. Joanne, I got to start with you because that's really important. Talk about what you do and why kids of today are important. And when I think of this, I think of Cooper, Rachel's son. Talk about that, Joanne.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me here. I'm really honored. So thank you so much. It's nice to meet everybody. So let's see, I'm a speech language pathologist, advocate for early literacy and language, educational facilitator. And so let's see, just a little reference. I started working in the city years ago with the kids in the lower performing school. And so what was happening was I was working there, and I also was working after school in the suburban area, and then the city schools. But the common denominator was with the parents after school was, how can I get my kids to talk? But in school, while I'm in the school in the city, there wasn't a lot of parent involvement. So then we have these heavy caseloads, and you're only seeing these kids twice a week, 3 times a week, assemblies, field trips, everything interferes. You just do the best you can. So I thought that I could come up with some resources to help the parents, right? Because they're coming to school. Gosh, just for example, you have 6th graders that are reading at a 1st grade level. I mean, that's a huge gap, right? So you can see that when they're coming into school, they don't have the appropriate language skills that they should have gotten during that birth through 5 period, which is a crucial period for language development, because the synaptic connections are being made, and the more input you have, the more interactions, the more life experiences you have, the more your brain's going to grow. And 80% of the brain is developed by age 3. So if you have adverse conditions in the environment, neglect, limited language, limited experiences, it all plays a role in once you go to kindergarten. And the problem with that is the kids are expected to be reading and writing. They're learning the fundamentals of reading and writing, but they should be reading at the end of kindergarten. When I went to kindergarten, I don't think we were at that point. I think we started in 1st grade, but it's a whole different ballgame. Now I work with pre-K kids too. Right now, I don't work in the city anymore, but that's just a reference point that I was telling you about. But presently, I work in the pre-K part-time and this pre-K schools, and it's the same thing. These kids are coming in with a lot of limited language, and they're expected to identify letters, blend sounds to form words during phonemic awareness activities, letter recognition tests, letter sound recognition tests. It's just a lot for them. And if they don't have that birth through 3 period locked in, it's just there's so many kids in the classroom, and now with this extra new layer, I shouldn't say extra, a new layer of children coming from different countries, they don't even speak English. So you have that layer on top of kids that are just not exposed to language early on. So that's why I created these books, Talk, Play, and Read with Me, Mommy, Talk, Play, and Read with Me, Daddy, to get the message out there. Because also I have this new program called the Behind Cycle. Basically, the catchphrase is being behind, falling behind, and staying behind. And so fundamentally, it just means children are not reading at their expected age and grade level because they can't keep up with the educational demands because they're so far behind. So we want to reverse the cycle and get them reading, and we want them to achieve that academic success. Because you know what? Do I have another minute?
Go ahead.
Okay. I did a case study with a kid in school years ago, right? He came into 3rd grade at my school, and he was the sweetest boy. So I took him on my caseload, or I took him out after school. He was on my speech and language caseload. Reading 6 words a minute is not reading. So at that point, so I had him for a year, and at the end of that year, he was reading 100 words a minute. All I did was go out and buy this book, How to Teach Your Child How to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. And we read and we read and we read. And so kids at the end of 3rd grade are expected to read 114 words per minute. So there you go. And he was, unfortunately, he was, in that poverty situation. But the point is, these kids can read. Somebody needs to read with them and frequently read, especially when they're, learning at a slower rate. So, and I have another story, but it's the same scenario. It was ENL student, same thing. He came in with 0 English. And the first word, well, how do we say it? JoJo, right? I would have him call me Miss JoJo because I wasn't expecting to say Miss Gremlin, right? So he said JoJo, and I said, oh my God, there's a breakthrough here. And then he was so sweet. I took him under my wing and exposed him to the same book, and he was reading, writing. And he was in 6th grade. So I guess the overall moral of the story is that these kids can read. They just need to have somebody read with them often or regularly. But it's a vicious cycle. They get labeled. They don't need to be labeled. They just need somebody to read with them.
And so we got to piggyback on Carol on this, followed by Rachel. Carol, tell you are, and then Matt, we're coming to you because I know you got a slight delay. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, lovely to hear from you, Joanne. I want to just give a shout out to Better Vision for Children and Easy Way Network, and also to Heather Mariana, because I am trying out some of her amazing beauty kitchen stuff. That's so awesome. Okay, I'm Carol Register. I am the creator of the Neuro Wealth Method. What does that mean? I take female leaders from 6 figures to 7 figures. My program has just relaunched. There's a few openings left. 90% of my current clients have had increase in income within the first 30 days. So if you're looking to grow your wealth, jump in with me. It's private invite programs. So reach out and contact me.
Rachel.
Yes.
Tell them who you are.
I'm I'm in Houston, Texas. I don't know. It's hard to, right? You're always saying I'm a chef. Now you got me wanting to say it. When I started with Brian years ago, that's what we called me, was a chef, because I had a cooking show. But I like to say that I'm more into acting, or, whatever. I have a morning show called Coffee Talk, and you can find that on social media, and it's a lot of fun. I do modeling and promos and, podcasts, and have a lot of fun with, social media. So
she's actually kicking out. She's just afraid to admit it. She's in a mellow mood today. Hey, Howard Wiggins, tell them who you are, followed by Terri, then Matt will go into you.
I'm Howard Wiggins, interior design. Like it says, I'm one of the top 35 world interior designers. I've got my own look called Stacked and Layered. I'll be moving to Chattanooga pretty soon, and I'm going to open up a business there. So stay tuned for that. That's pretty much it.
Terri.
Hi, everyone. I'm Terri Marie. I'm here in Southern California. I've been with Brian since 2014. I started with him when I started competing in fitness competitions. So fitness is my life and my lifestyle. I've been acting since I've been a little kid. I've been in movies, I've done commercials, I've modeled, I've done everything. That's why they call me nonstop. I have a day job where I work in the field of orthopedics with I'm a rep, but I work with patients as well. Actually, I have to get off early tonight because I have to do an in-service at a hospital tonight for the emergency department. So that's why I'm in this outfit. But I'm really excited for things to come. I've had a journey last couple of years. So my mom with dementia, so it's taken a lot of my time. She passed away in January, which I'm very sad about, but it's opening up a whole new chapter of my life, which Brian knows, and Brian's been there with me. So I have a lot of projects that are going to be finally coming to fruition, if that makes any sense. But I'm just, glad to be here. One of the main things I do for Brian, though, is I do the red carpet hosting, which I love Heather's products as well, because I've been using her products since I've been doing her gifting suites. I have a ton of her stuff. Her stuff is amazing. It's amazing skincare, amazing makeup. So that's me. So, but again, I'm going to have to be going off a little bit early today.
So Matt, we can finally get to you, because I wanted to see, sometimes the internet settles down depending what people are. Sometimes, not always. Let's talk about who you are, because your product is very, very important. And talk about how you started that, your story, and where everything came from behind.
Oh, thank you very much. It's great to be here, and hopefully our Spectrum Internet bandwidth expands while I'm talking. Hopefully they see this and see it's been throttled. I've formed Innovet Pet Products 20 years ago, and have just been made pet products and making solutions for my own dogs when there was nothing out there good enough for them in terms of the unique problems that they were having. I've let necessity be the guide all along. And then about 4 years ago, I really pivoted into dog food, and it's basically a lifelong quest to find the best dog food for my own dogs. But I didn't really have any I didn't really have a specific way to innovate with it with dog food until I realized the possibilities with ChefPaw about 4 years ago. And it took me forever to get away from kibble and all the marketing that's behind that. But then and I went to fresh food, and then I wound up spending over $1,000 a month on just a bulldog and a Labrador for fresh food.
Jeez.
And then the bulldog developed allergies, and he needed to have like custom diets of fresh food. And so I looked for all there are a lot of companies out there that say they can do fresh custom diets, but to do that, to realistically do that and to do it affordably was not possible at all. And then at the same time, one of my best friends is the smartest person I've ever met, named Derek Barge. He told me that he called me and said he had a great idea for taking our Innovet Pet Products company and getting into pet food. And he said he'd explain it to me later. And I thought we were going to talk the next day, but then sadly there was a tragedy, and he passed away in a tragic accident. And so that was about 3 years ago. And I was, for months, I was thinking, what could he have been talking about? What could that idea have been? And then one day it just kind of all hit me. It's like all the problems I've been having with my own dog's food and how it needs to be customized and how it needs to be affordable, that it needs to be at least the same cost as our own food. And it really shouldn't be any more. A dog's meal shouldn't be any more expensive than a decent meal for ourselves. It's the same. It's the same quality. It should be the same quality. It should be about the same price. So it kind of irked me that all the fresh foods available out there were 2 or 3 times more expensive than what the regular ingredients should be. And so that sent me on a quest to make first a machine that could easily let people cook and mix the food quickly and at a low temp, so it's not burning off all the nutrients. And then after that, I realized that, like, how do you know what goes in it? How do you know if a dog has enough calories or enough protein or enough calcium? And so that's when I started developing a software to calculate the nutritional yield of any recipe and then compare that to the nutritional needs of dogs. And I went down a big rabbit hole of finding all the different possible schools of thought with nutrition in dogs. And I had found that the AAFCO is the main governing body for dog food, or at least they used to be. And they had adjusted their standards to fit big commercial production and kibble specifically. And so we realized that making a batch of food to the kibble standard is pretty easy. It's a low standard. We should go much further than that. And so we developed our software to be able to calculate the individual needs of a pet, not just the overall general needs of dogs and cats in general. And we launched it. We're coming up on almost 2 years since we launched the machine and the software, and it's taken off like crazy. We're going to be at Super Zoo in the new product showcase in about 3 weeks, and we're really excited. I mean, the kibble industry is like the big tree, and ChefPaw is like the small axe that's ready to just start chipping away at it.
Wow. What's funny about that is a lot of my female, especially my female friends, I've seen them go from Trader Joe's to I call it whole paycheck, and then they go to another store because it's expensive, and then they this is just for their dogs. So yeah, but they were enhancing the dog's life. And I knew why they would do it. And every day they would make it fresh. And then sometimes they put it in freezer and stuff. But it did help, because what a lot of people forget is that dogs and cats, they have allergies. It's like they're catching things from us now, which is really interesting, isn't it, Matt? And I'm coming to you in a minute.
Oh yeah, there's dogs that have food intolerances and food allergies, just like we do, and just the same rates of population and everything. And also, I mean, even dogs that don't have allergies and intolerances, they're being fed, most of them are being fed the exact same thing every day, day in and day out. Even if it's a fresh food, the same meal over and over again is not good. That's not how we or them were ever designed to get their full nutrition. So it's that's why we're really about having people alternate recipes. And so we developed over 50 recipes that far exceed the kibble standard. And so for just about every life stage or condition that a dog is in, we've got a balanced recipe that is ready for that dog. And we then created our software to be able to easily adjust those recipes to fine tune them for specific needs.
You know what's interesting about that, and yeah, Rebel, you read my mind, Evan, which goes into your film. Tell them who you are and what you've created. This great short film that I like, that I've been telling everybody around the world about.
Well, thank you so much, Brian, and happy to be here with all of you talented people. My name is Evan Morton. I started Blind View Productions back in 2022. I used to work at National Geographic on a show called Life Below Zero. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be the next Steve Irwin, but I kind of fell in love with the camera, so I never put that down. And while I was working at National Geographic, on the side, I would do different jobs that came up as a freelancer. And I was working at tech events. Someone got my information, and a couple weeks later, I got invited to a wolf hike. Didn't really know. I always thought wolves were beautiful animals. I grew up with dogs. You probably saw my dog going by at some point. And I went on this hike just outside of Los Angeles with at Apex Protection Project. You could find them at Apex Protection Project on Instagram, or Apex Wolves on TikTok. They actually have a pretty big TikTok following. And I just really didn't know anything about wolf dogs. And the idea that people were breeding wolves and dogs together, selling them as pets, when we have a lot of dogs being euthanized in shelters, and then we have wolves, which are a political abortion topic, if you will, across the country. I wanted to highlight wolf dogs and some of the work that Apex does, and made a short film about that. I've been working on a feature film called War on Wolves, and have shot 34 days of that so far, but self-funding only gets you so far. So we're trying to get the final push now.
Let's take a look at this clip, Evan, because it's a great film.
Thank you.
Our community is not safe. They're not going to be safe until these animals are banned from our area.
In the world, is there a place for wolf dogs?
The unfortunate thing about wolf dogs is they're kind of stuck in two worlds. They're not necessarily a full wolf, and they're not necessarily a dog.
It's up for debate tonight whether wolf dogs are pets or threats.
In some moments, they can behave perfectly, and in other moments, they've got that wildness still in them.
Go. Ah, shit.
If we're going to play God, that's probably not a good thing.
Wow. You know, if Evan, how did you want to shift the public's perception around this? And like, when did this idea really, you mentioned your hike, but is that really where the idea hit you or when did it hit you to start bringing awareness about this?
Yeah, so as a filmmaker, my first passion always was narrative filmmaking, and I love writing scripts and shooting stuff like that. But I always, like I said, I always grew up around animals. And when I went on this hike, I saw Paul and Steve, who are the founders of Apex. Right now, they have about 22 wolf dogs. So you can imagine that's a lot of work and takes a lot of volunteers. And I saw how much these animals love Paul and Steve, as well as how much the volunteers love them as well. It's a lot of work to take care of these animals. As Matt, I'm sure knows, as a dog owner, it's a lot of work to take care of dogs, let alone wolf dogs. And talking to them, I really wanted to make a film about them, but also bigger picture about wolf dogs, which right now they're legal in 37 states in the country to breed and sell. Some of that ranges from whether the state has grandfathered in, or there's different variables to that, but overall 37 states where you can own a wolf dog. And I just thought we have so many dogs that are being, like I said, euthanized. The shelters are overcrowded. And then wolves right now are facing a really difficult time politically. And it's unfortunate, and I don't want to get too down the rabbit hole about my feature film, but it's unfortunate when people think of wolves, they think of Yellowstone. And I say that because Yellowstone's such a success, which is amazing, but they don't really look at these other recoveries that didn't go as well, where social tolerance is intercepted, and it kind of gets tossed under the rug, if you will. So I just really wanted to tell the story of Wolfdogs, and kind of, I think if you think of like a 16-year-old kid, how cool does it sound to own a piece of the wild and have a wolf dog? Now that I'm in my 30s, I never had one, but now that I'm in my 30s, I'm like, that sounds like a lot of work, and I've got 2 dogs, and I've already got my hands full. So
I have a question real quick.
Okay, ahead, Terri.
And then I have to go to do my thing. But this is really interesting to me. I just kind of, what is kind of the temperament of these dogs? Because it sounds like they might have kind of the same kind of a stigma of like a pit bull. I mean, is it kind of like, do some of them like have like a more like, because you know, pit bulls, some of them are aggressive, some aren't. It has to do with a lot of times it's the owner and who breeds them and how they're bred. I just was kind of curious, is there any correlation, you know, to that?
So I won't get too into like the pit bull direct correlation, but when it comes to wolf dogs, they range in content. So there's low content, mid content, high content, depending what percentage of wolf they are. Because what they usually do is they breed a wolf and a dog, and then they start breeding wolf dogs together. So then the percentage varies. And when you mix a wild animal and a domestic animal, just because it's a certain percentage, you don't know which percentage that is of what traits, right? So from a psychological standpoint, you know, you might have a low content wolf dog that acts more wolfy than a mid content or high content. So it kind of is a little bit unpredictable. And I think a lot of times people bite off more than they can chew. You get an animal, and as a puppy, it might be kind of easy. And if you've seen, I don't want to compare this to Chimp Crazy, but definitely not. But if you've seen Chimp Crazy, it's like at a certain point when an animal gets older, it starts to mature, and you start seeing behaviors that are harder to control or domesticate. Because if you end up trying to buy a domestic pet that's part wild and doesn't act like a normal dog, it's hard to put those expectations on something that's doesn't have that same DNA makeup.
I have one more question though about this, because it just fascinates me. As far as the dog, like, is there another, like, what breed, is there a breed that they are usually bred with, or is it just random, or how?
Yeah, so actually wolf dogs started in the 1700s in England. The first time it's recorded with a Pomeranian. The Pomeranian used to be a larger dog that was used for sled dogs and working dogs. They ended up breeding them down because one of the queens back then wanted to make them smaller dogs. But point being is people thought they would make good guard dogs or good working dogs, but the thing is wolves are very shy and afraid of people. You can imagine we're talking thousands of years of, like, you know, seeing humans hunt, and not all of them became dogs. So they ended up not being good work dogs because they were so afraid. A lot of the times when I've gone in to film wolves in places I've been around the country, as well as wolf dogs, a lot of times they would hide in the corner, and they're very afraid.
Wow.
So what Apex does, and Paul and Steve do, is, one, they get calls all the time because people are either going to get them euthanized, or they don't know what to do with them and trying to find a new home. And as you can imagine, it's incredibly difficult to find a home for a wolf dog, let alone a regular dog, right? But a wolf dog, you need a lot of space. You need kind of like a ranch. You need someone that has endless time to train them and work with them, which, you know, I don't know anyone off the top of my head that has that. So,
Evan, Matt, I'm going to come to you in a minute because I got to pick your inventor brain.
Yeah.
Evan, you have a great line in the movie where no matter what, it's still a wolf and a dog, and it's in the middle of that, and it really doesn't know, you don't know what you're going to get. And then once I saw it on the red carpet, I said, oh, that'd be great to have one of these, until I saw it on the red carpet, how big it was.
Yeah.
And then I said, oh, you're going to have to spend a lot of time, and I don't, because I want to take my dog with me. That's why I don't have it. But I also know I can't take it to Australia or Hawaii because it'll be kennel for a couple months, and I don't want that. And then I said, I won't be getting a wolf dog because of those reasons.
Yeah, so it's interesting. The film, we don't get too into this in the film, but one of the wolf dogs ends up in a ranch, and the person ends up helping take care of it actually works with wild horses. And wild horses, as you can imagine, people look at horses and think that's amazing. I have an apartment, so definitely can't have a horse here. But getting a wild horse and making that domestic is like difficult. And I think when people get a wolf dog, there are some similarities to that with, again, just the expectations of something versus the reality of what you have and the amount of time it takes to work on it. You know, a lot of people, they want to get a classic car, right? Like I would love a classic car, but I'm not a mechanic and I don't know how to work.
That's a good analogy.
So yeah.
Hey man, I got to pick your inventor and brain in you and the patent person in you. So what would you make for a wolf dog?
Well, I mean, that's all going to depend on how on the setting, really. You know, if it's a full wolf dog, they should probably be hunting. They should probably be eating raw. You know, like what they're used to. But the more you get into an urban setting, the less realistic and the more problematic that becomes. There's the whole raw diet thing is there's a lot of credibility behind it, but there's a lot of problems there too. In the wild, in a very rural setting, raw feeding makes total sense. Number one, you're not gonna you're out in a rural setting, you're not gonna have to worry about like E. coli and things like that. And then also with a regular wolf, their jaw structure is designed for chewing bones, and that's the way that the dogs get calcium. And calcium's the number one thing that's easy to become nutritionally deficient in. For dogs. Now my lab and my bulldog are good examples here. My Labrador has a jaw structure, a tooth structure that's very similar to wolves. He could survive for at least a while in the wild. He would be able to hunt some things. So you know, he could process bones. However, my bulldog, his jaw structure has been basically forced evolved by man. And his jaw structure is not, he could never survive in the wild. He could have survived 20 minutes in the wild. His jaw structure has been evolved to survive a living room and, you know, and be fed stuff. So, so yeah, it's all on a spectrum. If you, once you, as far as feeding a wolf, or a wolf hybrid, once you get away from feeding them, from letting them hunt or actually feeding them raw wild food, now you're bringing in, you're going to naturally have to bring in food from the overall food supply, from, you know, our domestic food supply. The domestic food supply is, you have to treat anything raw in the domestic food supply, even vegetables, you have to treat it as possibly have do.
Yeah.
Did I cut out there? I hope not. But anyway,
you did, but the point is still
your
made.
Food's coming from the domestic food supply. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're getting anything from grocery stores, you gotta assume you gotta cook it. Or am I still connected there?
I lost you at cooking.
It's just glitching a little, isn't it?
Oh no. Yeah. It's not a good commercial for Spectrum cable.
Matt, if I could reiterate what you were saying, you know, when you're in the commercial food supply where things are being shipped across the country and so forth, you're going to have to look at things like E. coli and potential pathogens that have gotten into the food supply that aren't necessarily the case when a dog is eating wild in the rural areas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
And Yeah, and then when most dogs don't have the wolf-like jaw structure, so they're not capable of actually chewing and eating and processing bones to the point where they're not going to get where they're not going to get bone splinters and risk perforated intestines and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow. I know with my dog down in Chile, he's a Chinook and, really strong, amazing dog. But when he could no longer hunt and we had to start feeding him commercial food, he developed arthritis and the things that humans have problems with. And so we were really looking for ways to provide him a fresh diet and a raw diet that was safe for him, knowing like we couldn't give him chicken bones because chicken bones were too soft. They would break and those would damage his insides, like what you're saying. So what you've developed here with this machine, I mean, this is amazing. It's life-saving for these animals.
Thank you. Yeah, we're taking the concept of raw food cooking or raw food and just cooking it to the minimum temperature as quick as possible, just to soften things so that they become digestible, like carrots and sweet potatoes and that. And then just enough to kill off all the typical bacteria and pathogens that are out there, and just streamline it real fast. And then for most dogs, the calcium supply, we're getting it from powderized eggshells. That's what we recommend. That's what we include to go along with our machine, and that's what we recommend people do. My lab, if he's ever fed bones, he can chew them. He can process them for the most part. And even crushed eggshells, the stomach acid breaks that down and softens it. But this lab is so incredibly athletic; it's running and jumping all the time that it doesn't the food doesn't stay in the stomach acid long enough for it to break down. He's moving it all around in there, and so he gets little cuts, in his stomach. He gets like a little bit of blood in his stool if it's not fully powderized. And so that's kind of something where it's different than the needs of really super athletic modern dogs might be different than a wolf in the wild, because I doubt that a wolf in a wild is stimulated with things all day long, with activities and things like that all day long. So I think it's possible that there's some dogs like my lab whose calorie needs are much higher than what his wolf ancestors would have had in the wild.
Wow. It's interesting about that. Speaking of wild things, children, Joanne, I was thinking, I was talking to a couple people today, because one of the things why I'm in North Carolina is I'm helping take care of 2 kids that are not mine, but I am reading to them, and I am taking them out, and I am telling them about how to pet a dog and cats, not like brush them real hard and letting them come up to you and let them check you out, not the other way around. You talk about fast play and read, but you also talk about teaching them from childbirth. How is important, because I always tell people, and I've told Rachel and Carol this, not everybody should be a mother, not everybody should have kids and be married, because they can't take care of themselves sometimes, and they don't know how to do that with others. So when other people come in and take care of these people, what say you about going back to the basics? Because we need stuff. I'm reading about my friends who work for NPR and PBS, and they're losing their jobs. And this is where a lot of us learn from Sesame Street and Electric Company. For all those that are a little bit older, that's where you learn these things.
Yes. It is. The problem is what happens in a school setting is they just, even if the kids don't have the baseline skills, they just keep pushing them forward and forward and forward. And then, like you said, when I first spoke, there's a huge gap. So I don't really understand that psychology, but it's because you're just setting them up for failure. They don't. If you can't add, like, let's say you just can't do a 5 + 5 equation, right? You're not going to be able to do triple digit if you can't do the simple one, right? I don't know where this logic is with the district, in the sense that it's called social promotion. And so what happens is a lot of the kids, unfortunately, by third grade is a key point, a key predictor of a child's future success. So what happens from my experience, a lot of kids get labeled at that point, that they're learning disabled or they're ADHD or other health impaired, these labels, because they're not keeping up in the classroom. And then another factor is the fact that if they're not able to keep up in the classroom, they get very frustrated. Then they're acting out behaviors, and it's a whole, they disrupt home and school life. It's a whole vicious cycle. So to catch them between this birth and 5 period, and I'm not saying that you have to be with this child and, read it like an encyclopedia every day, right? You just have to expose them to fun activities so they know the vocabulary, so they can communicate with their friends about, I'm doing an ocean theme with the kids this summer. And the mom I saw today, she said, wow, you have so many fun supplies. She said she had a previous therapist who brought her son in his office, his therapy room. And all he did was talk about the furniture in the room. I said, what? That is weird to me. So I have themes right now. I'm doing an ocean theme. I have, as many animals as I can have. It's all about the visuals, talking about them. Role playing is so much fun. That's why I love Hemp, because it's also stimulating for me. So I want to channel my energy in a fun way and be a mirror to them. So that's what it's just, I could be in an empty box and come up with something, right? You just pretend, oh, I see that, and they're going to start looking for it, right? So so it's just tapping into children's imagination and making learning fun and educational at the same time.
It's interesting, Joanne, because several years ago, like many years ago, I did brain development research, and it was the kids that went on to have the highest IQs and were members of Mensa, which is a high IQ society, were the ones that had the most imaginary play when they were young. So I really love what you're saying about the visuals, the interaction, the role play. But I specifically have a question because I've got new grandbabies. Okay. And one of the things that was brought to our attention was the potential for a frenectomy, where are you familiar with that? Where the nerve that attaches
to the
tongue, is that what's happening when it's affecting their
now they're coming out with, they're being born where that nerve that goes down the whole entire body. I was so blown away, Rachel, you know about that, that it's shortened and tightened. And they actually think it may have something to do with the folate that we're given. But anyway, they're starting to see this. And so babies now are being recommended to have it clipped in order to be able to latch properly and to be able to have appropriate language development.
So my niece had the same thing with her little boy. They snipped the frenulum so he could latch onto the baby bottle.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not exposed to little babies. So, but I usually work with the kids starting like 18 months and going forward. But she did tell me about that experience. But the we have a frenulum below your tongue. And I know the kids sometimes get that snip because their tongue tightness affects their articulation. But I did some research on it, and it said that sometimes that snipping will work and sometimes it doesn't. So sometimes you're better off just waiting till, they grow a little older to see how their, speaking skills sound. But
I wondered how that affects their language development, if that's undiagnosed or not caught. And then here they are entering school and they've got this issue. So
right. Yeah. So I wish I could elaborate. I don't have a lot about the baby. So
Cooper went through that. Cooper went through that, and I didn't get it clipped, but they suggested, and sure enough, he does have a few, or he struggled, but now he's going into 4th grade, and it's funny how, just like you said, around 3rd grade they start to work these things out with everything, and it's kind of resolving itself.
Hey, we got a couple minutes left. Hey, Howard, you used to deal with a lot of kids. I'm not sure if you're still in contact with them, but it was interesting and fascinating what you used to talk about on their social skills.
Yeah.
Well, I worked with mentally challenged kids, so it's a little different. I mean, I had one boy that was a teenage boy, and he couldn't even say daddy. I mean, he learned my name, and then when his father came to see him, I said Howard, and he said his name, and then his dad did that, and he didn't say dad, and that kind of upset me that he could say my name, but he couldn't say dad, because the very first words that any child says is mom or dad. So it was kind of touching.
Hey, we got a couple minutes left. Hey, Evan, talk about this. When the dogs were on the red carpet, the Wolfdogs,
Yes.
I had some pictures of them. Were they scared of people being with the lights on that? Because the trainers took them away, and I didn't know why they did that. Can you explain that to me? Because for the people that were there.
So I think there's a fine line between bringing like awareness and overexposing or overstimulating the animals. And the animals that they brought, like I said, they have 22 wolves/wolfdogs, and out of those 22, they have 2 of them that are ambassadors that they bring with them to schools for educational purposes, to different seminars. So the ones that they brought were the ambassadors that are used to being around people. They're used to being on stage with lights and microphones and all of that. With that said, a red carpet is a little bit different. So we brought them onto the carpet for the pictures, but we did not want them to be going down the line of Q&As and, because similarly, like we were talking about and kind of talking about tying in what Joanne and Carol were talking about as well, it's you talk about kids, and kids learn language and they learn how to communicate, right? With dogs, they're not able to tell you, the dog can't tell Matt, hey, my stomach hurts, I don't like this food. You have to look for the reactions of like a rash, or they stop eating the food, or in their stool, or whatever the case is. So I think really reading their behavior from a visual standpoint.
And the reason why I asked that, because I was, sometimes people are really stupid on red carpets. I could just see someone being dumb, reaching over there wanting to pet it, and that wolf dog going, crowd.
No.
It didn't happen, but these people are weird sometimes.
Yeah, people, it was definitely my first Brad Pitt moment of going on a carpet and being swarmed by paparazzi. But I will say I filmed a lot of stuff that didn't make the movie. And a lot of the stuff I did film is they have a kids program where kids went to go be with the wolf dogs. They were helping clean the cages. They went on the hike with the wolf dogs. So like they are around a lot of people, and you kind of treat them like cats, if you will. So when you're in the enclosure with them or going on the hike, you don't like go up and start rubbing their faces like a dog. You just let them come up to you and sniff you and kind of assess that. And then if they're interested, I've had them come up and lick my face before, but I've also had it where they don't mind me and they just do their own business. So sometimes you get lucky and you get a wolf kiss, and sometimes you don't.
Hey, give me social media real quick, Evan.
Yeah, you can find Folsom's Runs on Instagram at Folsom's Run. You can find mine at Evan Morton Film. And then if you look up Blind View Productions, you can find my company as well. And then just real quick for the sanctuary, it's Apex Protection Project on social media. On TikTok, it's Apex Wolves. So for the young folks out there, you can find that.
So I just want to say, Evan, I have a little boutique hotel down in southern Chile. We run retreats, but we've featured Audubon Society, Nat Photo, National Geographic. So that, you being a part of National Geographic, if you ever want to come down and visit Patagonia, just get in contact. And I would love for you guys to reach out on, I'm an oldie, but I'm on all the socials. So you can reach out.
No, I'd love to connect with you. I haven't been to Patagonia before, so it's on my list of places to go. So we could get each other's info after this.
Awesome.
Joanne?
And for all of you. Yeah.
So are you looking for my socials?
Yes.
Okay. So at JoJoG1020 for Instagram. Talk, Play, and Read with Me Mommy, Facebook. My website, talkplayandread.com. And I think that's about all. I don't know LinkedIn by heart, but is
And
that
how can they get your book, which is most important?
okay? So there's two things. My books are available at Amazon.com, and then also I have a Patreon page, which was set up for donations. So then if people donate, then I can send some books out to families. So that I guess it's Joanne Gramlich, Patreon, Joanne Gramlich, something like that. Or you know what? I got it. It's Talk, Play, and Read. There you go. So yeah, so it's a great way to get these resources out to the community. So thank you.
Rachel?
Rachel Roberts Recipes on IG and Facebook is Rachel Ann Roberts. I have coffee talk in the morning.
And Matt, you get the last word on ChefPaw.
Yeah, our Instagram is @officialchefpaw, and all the information really for ChefPaw is at chefpaw.com, or you can Google dog food maker. We're all across page 1 on there, and our app is available. Our nutrition app is available for free on chefpaw.com. If you click on the nutrition app, you can sign up for a free account and get all the information you want on dog nutrition. We don't even have to have one of our machines to use it.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And 3 movies just for anybody who might be watching. Let's see. One is Ballad with Maggie Q on Prime Video or AMC, because Prime owns AMC now. Think of James Bond. Very good 10-part series, which is streaming now. A new one just came out, which is excellent. And I had been thinking about Ed Sullivan. So if you think of any variety show, Ed Sullivan is the granddaddy of them all. So everybody debuted on the show. The Beatles, Elvis, the Supremes, anybody from Motown. It's called The Untold Story of Ed Sullivan, Sunday's Best. When you can get 125 million watching on a Sunday night, unheard of numbers, but your average was between 35 and 50 million on a Sunday night, those numbers, they can't be duplicated. So that's that. And then let's see the last one. Oh, go to your theaters and see F1 in IMAX. The Brad Pitt film on F1 racing is really, really good. So everybody, thank you for coming. It's never easy to make these things work on things. Carol, you want to say something?
Yeah. Speak of your numbers, Brian, looking at over 800 million views now. Is that right?
And counting.
And growing. Yeah.
And 40 million plus on iTube 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. And as I always say to everybody, thank you. Have a good night tonight. A better day tomorrow. You see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours, because everybody needs it. Chime into Coffee Talk. Look to see what Evan's doing. Buy Matt's products. Buy Joanne's books. And go see Terrill in the Andes. All right. We will see you next week.